Welcome back to the WalterPicks Fantasy Football Show. We're here in person today to debate how we think the first round of PPR fantasy football draft should go. We're talking 12-team PPR drafts here today. And I know we're going to have some differences, some good debate, hopefully. Thinking through how the first round should go is a really good mental practice to get ready for drafts. Here with Seth and Avery for the show today. This is going to be a fun one, guys. Excited to dive into it. Seth, how are we doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, my key thing for this round is what I think the first round should go. I do try to get some steals if some of my guys, maybe they're second rounders, a little spoiler. I may try to wait till then.
Right.
But this is how I think if I was drafting in every position, this would be my first round.
Yeah, I agree. And some of the guys I have in the back part of this round two, I won't take until round two.
Yeah.
Or sorry, the back part of round one, I won't take until round two, but I think they should be going.
Yes, agreed.
Which is why I like them in round two. And this is how I think draft should go, not how your draft necessarily will go.
Right. So if you were just all 12 picks,
right, exactly.
This would be your team.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Avery, how are we doing today? Excited to debate round one?
I've been preparing for this video all week. Just finished, all three of us, a 32-person fantasy football draft. My knowledge is deep, and I have a very strong first round.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to diving into it. Let's jump right into it. I'm going to start with who I think the first overall pick should be, and then we'll go in order if you guys disagree. But to me, I think the top three are really difficult, and probably going to be some good debate here between the top three. And maybe you could argue a fourth or fifth should be in this discussion too. We'll get there. But to me, Bijan Robinson should be the first overall pick in every single fantasy football draft. Just a slightly safer running back than Saquon Barkley because of the age and because the receiving role was a lot better last season too. It's tough to pass on Jamar Chase as well, who I do have at number two. We're going to get there in a second. But for me, you take the safest running back in fantasy football, has over 20 points in almost every single week in PPR leagues. I think the Falcons' team environment is extremely safe. Bijan, an extremely safe player, talent-wise. So yeah, I'm going with the safest bet, elite ceiling, just like Saquon too. So I'm taking Bijan Robinson with the first overall pick. Avery, who do you got at one overall, and what do you think about Bijan at one?
I don't hate Bijan at one at all. I've seen a lot of comments and a lot of people asking about who the number one running back is between him and Saquon. I don't have either of those as my number one. I have Jamar Chase number one. I think the pass volume that is there is not going to change. The Bengals defense is still atrocious, and they're going to pass way more than every other team. And when you're on the field that much, running that many routes, I think Jamar Chase at the number one is an easy decision for me.
Yeah, he's definitely tough to pass on. Who do you have at one?
I also have Jamar Chase. I just see, like, when you get to the fantasy football playoffs, I've had Jamar Chase drop 50 points against me before. And this year, I want to be the one dropping 50 points with Jamar Chase.
Yeah, the thing about Bijan last season is he didn't have any, like, massive explosion games that we saw from Saquon, that we saw from Chase. But I do think they're there. We just didn't see a lot of them last season. But for me, like, the reason to go Bijan over Chase at one is more the players in the later rounds that you're seeing at receiver versus running back. Especially in a lot of the leagues I'm in, running backs go so heavy in the first two rounds. Breece Hall, Chase Brown, they might not be there with my next pick. And I might be looking at Kyron Williams. Yeah. I might have to reach for a Marion Hampton at that point. Whereas if I get a running back in the first round, I just feel a lot better how my teams end up turning out, even though it is so tough to pass on Chase. I do have him at two overall, Jamar Chase. And yeah, he's on the team that probably is going to lead the NFL in pass attempts. They were right at the top last season, tethered to an elite QB, the best wide receiver in fantasy football. So, I think we're splitting hairs a little bit between pick one and pick two. I agree that Chase is a fine pick at pick one, but yeah, the way I've been building my teams, I like going Bijan at one, and I'm taking Saquon at three. We can maybe just run through the top three. Does anyone not have those three players?
No, those are my top.
Those are my top three.
Okay, yeah. So how do you have pick two, and three?
I have pick two as Bijan over Saquon Barkley. There is something to be said about the statistic that the RB1 really does not finish number one 2 years in a row. A lot of things can change. A lot of injuries. Backfields usually don't stay the same for a couple of years. If anybody is going to defy that, it will be Saquon. He is a generational talent. The offensive line is amazing, and the team is curated to run a lot with him on it or not. But I do think the upside with Bijan Robinson and the amount of usage in the pass game, I think he's my number two.
Yeah, I've got Bijan at number two as well. A lot of the things that Avery said, you got the youth. I mean, the reason why Sam has him at number one, the reason I have kind of want to compare to Jamar Chase, but I have him number one. I found that I can, in pretty much every mock draft, I can get those running backs in the 2-3 turn. So I'm comfortable starting with Chase at one. I'd sometimes go early quarterback when I go Chase as well. So with Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and some RBs, there's probably a couple players I'm going to like. And then I move on to Bijan, who didn't have those explosive weeks, which is one of the reasons I have at number 2.
Yep.
Then Saquon at number 3. I just like, you got the age, you got the usage. I mean, he played for the Giants for a long time. He had an extra two, almost 3 months of rest in the offseason. But like Avery said, if anyone's going to do it back-to-back at Saquon, it's not like he had a crazy, unreal amount of touchdowns. He did have a lot of big plays, but that's what he's going to do when he's running through the kind of holes he is. So for me, if I have a top 3 pick, I'm ecstatic in my leagues.
Yeah, 100%. I think the top 3 picks are all very strong this season. And yeah, if you can get, if you take Chase too, that does, to me, like I don't want Chase Brown now. If I have Jamar Chase on my team, and there's a few players like that where I like multiple players on the same team, but I don't necessarily want them together. And so you're looking at the running backs. You're looking at, if you go Chase, realistically, maybe Jonathan Taylor slides, but probably not. Bucky Irving, Josh Jacobs, Breece Hall. And then I think there's a pretty big cliff. I mean, you could reach for a Marion Hampton. I won't knock people for reaching for him, but it will be a reach at that slot in draft. So yeah, I think you could get squeezed at running back with Chase at 1. That's my biggest fear. And at that point, I might push it another round and try to get RJ Harvey or Trevin Henderson with those builds.
It's risky after you pass because other people feel squeezed too.
Right. Yeah. 100%. And yeah, I have Saquon at pick 3. I think we all had Saquon at pick 3.
Yeah.
We have Saquon at pick 2 in the WalterPicks app. We have Chase at pick 1. We do have Saquon as the running back 1 overall in the WalterPicks app, which I think is pretty reasonable. I think it is extremely tough, extremely close decision between Saquon and Bijan. I think all those reasons I said before, I like Bijan a little bit more. I'm not scared about the first overall pick curse or the back-to-back running back 1 thing. Not scared about that
Madden curse
at all. Not scared about the Madden curse. Could not care less about the Madden curse. I could not care less about, he's getting too much work, so he's going to get hurt.
Oh, no.
Yeah, there's a real narrative being pushed out there that Saquon's got too much work last year. He's going to get too much work this season, so he's going to get hurt. And that's just the most backwards logic I think that it could exist in the fantasy space of, no, you want the guys getting that much work.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Saquon is the same situation as last year. Honestly, maybe even a little bit better because Kenneth Gainwell is out of the picture. Will Shipley, A.J. Dillon battling for that backup spot for the Eagles this season, but he's a top 5 talent at running back. Maybe top 3, maybe top 1.
Yeah, maybe top 1.
You could argue.
I could argue.
He's playing behind a top 3 offensive line.
Maybe top 1.
The Eagles also, they had they got tackled at the 1 so many times last season that led to the tush push. If that just regresses a little bit and we see Saquon get more carries inside the 5 on like that 3 to 5 yard range, we could see Saquon have a generational fantasy football running back season. So I'm not scared to take him like at all. I think there's a good case to make for him at 1 or 2 as well, even though we all have him at 3. But yeah, to me, these are the top 3, and they should be the top 3 in every draft. I think the player that most people will argue for next is Jahmyr Gibbs. But for me, I'm taking CeeDee Lamb at pick 4. And I think if any player is going to try to contend with Jamar Chase this season, it's probably going to end up being CeeDee Lamb instead of Justin Jefferson. I think we've talked about this on the show already a little bit, the tough decision between Lamb and Jefferson. But yeah, for me, the next 2 picks are CeeDee Lamb and then Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't think the addition of Pickens hurts Lamb. If anything, it might help. The Cowboys might lead the NFL in pass attempts. Very comparable, I think, to the Bengals situation. So yeah, such a safe floor with Lamb, such an elite ceiling as well. So yeah, I'm going Lamb at 4, Gibbs at 5, just a little bit more scared about the Lions potentially being a bit different without Ben Johnson. But Gibbs is a super safe bet as well, of course. I think there's some people out there arguing Gibbs at 1st overall. And I think that's a little bit out there, but it's not too crazy with what we've seen from Gibbs. He was at 5.6 yards per carry last season, and he's seeing only still around like half the rushing attempts. There's room for the role to grow still, and he could get more targets as well. How do you pick 4 and 5, Avery?
Yeah, I have it the same way with CeeDee Lamb and Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm not worried about Jahmyr Gibbs with the offensive coordinator change. Ben Johnson has led to top 25 running back for the longest time with the Lions. If anything, I think that could lean more in Jahmyr Gibbs' favor without him there. But I do think CeeDee Lamb is above him because of the pass volume that is expected. If you look at any sports book, the Cowboys are projected for top 3 passing volume. And when you have George Pickens as a new addition, that's definitely not going to change. Right. So I do have CeeDee Lamb over Justin Jefferson for a couple of reasons, which we'll get into when we go into Justin Jefferson. But that's why I have them ranked the way I do, like Sam.
How do you have it?
I actually have Gibbs at 4.
Nice.
And a lot of that has to do with the thing you start off with. And I love Jamar Chase that much. You guys will see with the rest of my first round that I'm worried about the running back position getting squeezed.
Yeah.
Every mock draft I've done, and I normally am every year, I'm like, just go best available.
Right.
But this year, it almost feels like that doesn't work because your best available after round 2 through round 9 is almost always a wide receiver.
Yeah.
And so for me, I want to take Gibbs early because in second round, guys like Drake London, Ladd McConkey could start to fall backwards. I love both those players. So I'm going Jahmyr Gibbs. And then at 5, I do have CeeDee Lamb. I did look back at his stats when in 2023 he was the wide receiver 1, only 0.1 points worse than Jamar Chase. So the potential is there.
Yeah.
But he also didn't really have a lot of competition like he does this year with George Pickens. And he had about 170 targets, I think, in that year. Yeah. And I think, if he was 140 targets to 150, he's worth it at pick 5, pick 4 even. But I don't know if he's going to get the same amount of just the Jamar Chase game-breaking speed, those long touchdowns. So I just have him at 5 as, hey, this is amazing. I got CeeDee Lamb at 5.
Yeah, it's totally reasonable. Similar to my argument for Bijan over Chase.
Yeah.
At 1, I think that is a very good point. You are, I think, a little less likely to get squeezed a few picks up in the first round, but it's still definitely possible.
I like to feel good after that first round. That's like, okay, if I don't get a running back for the next 5 rounds, I'm okay.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense to me as well. And the safety for me in the Cowboys passing attack and CeeDee Lamb at 4. The running back situation is just a joke. I mean, the Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders are going to be their lead rushers. And then they have Jaden Blue, who's a little bit more of a scat back, could run between the carries, but he's really a receiving back. Our comp for him was Nyheim Hines in the WalterPicks app, which I think is a pretty good comp for Jaden Blue, a little bit higher ceiling than I think that he has. But yeah, there's just the Cowboys' last 2 seasons, they've been near the top of the league in pass attempts inside the 5. And I think that's probably going to continue. We'll see how much Pickens eats into that for CeeDee Lamb, because he's definitely excels in that part of the field too. But
Jake Ferguson needs some touchdowns as well. He had barely any last year.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so we're all pretty much aligned in the top 5. I think pick 6. Do we all have Justin Jefferson at pick 6, or did you guys go something different than Jefferson? I have Jefferson at 6. I think he's a little riskier than CeeDee Lamb, definitely riskier than Jamar Chase, just because the quarterback situations, the pass volume situations, and then also he's actively hurt right now as well, which I think is a good enough reason to push him down after these top 5. I am not too scared about JJ McCarthy. I actually think JJ McCarthy will be a step up over Sam Darnold. So this might actually be a QB upgrade that we're seeing for Justin Jefferson, which is pretty exciting to think about. I think you could still argue him as the most talented receiver in the NFL.
I would.
Independent from all these other, team-wide factors. I think that's very reasonable. But yeah, I'm not afraid to take Jefferson top 5, but to me, he should be pick 6.
Yeah, I have him at pick 6 too. I think JJ McCarthy still has a lot of questions to answer. Yeah. We've never really seen him play. He's coming off a pretty big injury himself. I think regular season, first half season, Sam Darnold is better than JJ McCarthy will be, but he did fall off a really, really good amount towards the end of last season.
Yeah.
But I do have Justin Jefferson at 6 for the same reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also have Justin Jefferson at 6. He's like my least favorite player to draft this year, I think. I hate drafting Justin Jefferson, which it sounds crazy. But
didn't you hate drafting Jamar Chase last year?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I had to bring that up. That was when he was a little bit hurt, but I will eat that one. I was definitely wrong about Jamar Chase. So I could be wrong about this one as well. So maybe that's why you should be drafting Justin Jefferson. I also do have him at 6 with you guys.
Yeah.
But last year, I mean, his points per game, he didn't have the spike weeks, I don't think, that he's had in the past. And it almost reminds me of like a Amon-Ra St. Brown. We're going to look at his game logs, the advanced game logs on the WalterPicks app. And there really weren't. He did have one game of 36 points. I think there's a 32 in there.
Yeah.
But he also had a lot of games in like the 20 is great at 6. But he had some lower games as well. And that for me is just like a little bit less exciting, just because this Minnesota team, I don't think it's as good as it was a couple years ago. And he's still amazing. He's got the most yards per game of any wide receiver ever. He is that good. I put him in like the conversation in the next couple of years that he may solidify himself as the best wide receiver of all time. I love Justin Jefferson as a player, but for fantasy football, I'm just a little bit scared compared to the Cowboys. Dak Prescott, no worries. Some of my next picks as well, I may end up moving Justin Jefferson a little bit back because I love the upside and some of the things we've already talked about.
Right.
So I am kind of nervous, but today I have him at 6.
Yeah. I think 6 is the right spot for him. He is the most yards per game of all time. It is crazy. I mean, it's truly like
Jerry Rice.
He could average over 100 yards per game in his career, and that would be, I think, the first time
ever
that is a thing. So yeah, definitely agree with the talent of Jefferson. That's why I agree with him at 6. He was wide receiver 4 last year in points per game, only behind Chris Godwin, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase. Godwin obviously missed most of the season, so you could probably take him out of that ranking if you wanted to, and Jefferson would be up there at 3, Chase and Higgins at 1 and 2, which is a pretty wild thing to see for 2 guys on the same team. But yeah, I think the talent here does make Jefferson like safe at this pick, even with some of the other factors being a little bit concerning. The injury though is like not my favorite thing in the first round to take someone who's actively injured right now. It doesn't seem like a super serious injury. I think it's hamstring, right? I think that he's dealing with right now. They're just taking it cautiously at the moment, but
It's tough to draft injuries. Injuries already happen enough. I don't want to draft him onto my team.
they're going to find you.
Yeah.
You don't need to find them.
I don't need to actively pick
Which
them.
is what we're doing if we're taking Jefferson at 6 right now. But let's move on to pick 7 because I think this is where we'll maybe start to disagree a little bit as we get back in the back half of round 1. I do like the top 6 picks in fantasy a lot this year. All those guys I think are competing to be the number 1 overall player in fantasy. But I think Christian McCaffrey is also competing to be the number 1 overall player in fantasy. We just did the 49ers episode earlier today, Avery, and we've seen 4 fully healthy seasons from Christian McCaffrey since his rookie season. He's been top 2 in running back fantasy points per game all 4 of those seasons. He is currently fully healthy. He's been fully healthy and participating fully in camp for over a month now. So I am not scared to draft Christian McCaffrey, taking the bet he'll have a fully healthy season. And if he does, he probably is going to finish ahead of Gibbs or Bijan or Saquon. Like he's one of the few running backs left that can get into that tier and even beat that tier. We were talking about it again on this 49ers episode, but he didn't score a touchdown last season, still had 2 games as a top 12 running back in his 4 games. I mean, this is what McCaffrey gives you. He doesn't need to score because of the receiving work. He'll still finish as a top 12 running back. And then if he scores, he's the running back 1 on the week.
Like every single week.
Yeah. So I just think there's such a safe bet on this offense. The fact that he's fully healthy, but he's getting drafted like he's not, to me is a really compelling value in fantasy drafts. So for me, I'm taking McCaffrey pick 7. I've already done this multiple times in drafts that I've had. So this is definitely not just, what I'm saying, but also what I'm doing.
You have him in 32, right?
Yep. I got McCaffrey pick 17 in that draft, which is super flex, tight end premium. So he got pushed down a little bit, but I was excited to see him for sure still sitting there. We got his jersey here behind us as well for this episode. But yeah, I do like McCaffrey at 7, and I'm not scared to take the risk there. Who do you have at 7, Avery?
I will say it is not Christian McCaffrey. I do have Nico Collins at 7.
Wow.
This is possibly a bit early, but he is the clear number 1. The offensive line is a little bit worrisome because if CJ Stroud is getting pressured and you don't have time for your routes to develop downfield, that is a major risk. But I believe it's Christian Kirk. It's Jalen Noel, the rookies, Jaden Higgins as well. It's Nico Collins and everybody else. So I think his target share is going to be insane. And I think people are underestimating CJ Stroud because of the sophomore slump that he had last year.
Yeah, there's definitely a good point in terms of the target potential. Like when takedown went down, we saw a stretch last year. Nico Collins was the wide receiver 1 in fantasy. He had under 12.5 points just 2 times in PPR leagues last year. So elite floor, elite ceiling, exactly what you want with your first round pick. I have him down to pick 11 because there's some guys that I do really, really want in fantasy over him. And a lot of that does have to do with the running back squeeze that happens. So I would take Achane, Nabers, Bowers over him. We'll get to in a second. But yeah, Nico's a good first round pick. I don't want to talk anyone out of taking Nico either. My biggest fear for the Texans, though, is they had the worst offensive line in the NFL last year, and they got less talented somehow this offseason. They let all their starters walk basically and replace them with not very talented offensive linemen through free agency and in the draft. They're sort of trying to take a scheme-based approach rather than a talent-based approach at the offensive line, and I'm not sure that's going to work. Like this team could really struggle again on the offensive line. They, I think, have the least talented offensive line in the NFL.
It's possible.
We'll see if the scheme can be better because they were really untalented last year too, and the scheme sucked. And I guess that they weren't able to get those players to buy into the scheme, so they let them go. So we'll see. There's a chance maybe the scheme situation there will be a little bit better because they were so bad last year too. But the offensive line definitely concerns me here. The targets, though, should be there. How about you, Seth? Who do you have at pick 7? Is it McCaffrey? Is it Nico? Or is it someone else?
It is somebody else.
Wow.
And I do like what we're talking about. I'll get to the McCaffrey and the Nico Collins because I also have them as first rounders myself.
Yeah.
But at pick 7, I have Devon Achane. What Devon Achane brings you look at his rush share, his target share, his snap percentage. It's not crazy high.
Yep.
But he still brings you that crazy high weeks. He's another player that you could see dropping 50 points. That's the same thing why I love Jamar Chase. Is he's got the speed that he makes other NFL players look like they're not NFL players.
Yeah.
And you see running backs. We saw Omarion Hampton in the Hall of Fame game, which, he played 2 plays, so we won't read into it too much. But when he bounces outside, if that's Devon Achane, he is dusting those players.
Right.
And other players, they have to fight through contact. And I also like that Jonnu Smith is not there for Devon Achane. Tyreek Hill is going to face the too high safety. He's not getting over the top, and he's so fast that he's just kind of clearing guys out. You've got Jalen Waddle in a similar position, maybe a good target as well in drafts. But Devon Achane is really the underneath guy now on this team. Darren Waller, I don't see as a major threat. Devon Achane, if he gets any more snap share, if he gets any more targets, I do think that he's another guy, like you said with Christian McCaffrey, who could be the running back one.
Yep.
So for me, I'm not drafting him there a lot of times because you can get him in round 2.
Yep.
So I'm kind of waiting on that. But if I was drafting every team, Devon Achane would be my 7th overall pick.
Yeah, I got Achane at 8, so I'm right here with you, and I am taking Achane at 8. I wouldn't push him to round 2 because I do think there aren't many running backs left at this point in the draft already that have the potential that Achane has. He was 3rd in target share last year behind just Christian McCaffrey, who was top 3 again in target share in his 4 games, 18% target share for McCaffrey last season. The 49ers did have a lot of injuries during that time, but that's around what McCaffrey usually is at. And then Kamara was at number 1. He's been top 3 for back-to-back seasons, I believe, in target share. Crazy stuff with Alvin Kamara. But that's the list that Achane is on.
Yeah.
And we did see his target rate increase when Jonnu Smith wasn't on the field last year. We already have a sample size of snaps where Achane was on the field, Jonnu Smith wasn't on the field, and the targets did increase like the most for both Waddle and Achane. I'm pretty into both of them. I feel like Achane's like it's kind of a discount to Jahmyr Gibbs. We've seen this crazy efficiency from him. He wasn't as efficient last year, but the receiving potential is obviously there. The talent is there. My biggest fear with Achane is just the touchdowns and the goal line role. Will he hold on to the goal line role in this offense? They let Mostert leave. They signed Ollie Gordon. They drafted Ollie Gordon in the draft, who's really a goal line back. They signed Alexander Madison, who I don't think is good, but could play a goal line role. I think Jalen Wright is an immediate backup to Achane and not going to play a goal line role, but I don't think he has the same touchdown potential as the other running backs taken before him. If he has potential to lose that goal line role, we've seen them use Mostert in the past in this offense in a role like that and try to take some of the workload off of Achane. But like you said, his role does have actually room to grow in terms of the opportunities per game. He was at like right around 50% of the carries last year and 16% target share. I think both those are probably going to rise this season. So I'm taking him at pick 8 after Christian McCaffrey. Where do you have Achane in yours? Who do you got at pick 8?
Yeah, I have right after Nico Collins, I have Devon Achane and Christian McCaffrey. After that, my main issue with Achane is that he's not a power back. So that red zone role probably will not be his for the most part, which is why you go out and draft Ollie Gordon and get these other guys to fill in the Raheem Mostert role. But the target share is insane. And as long as Tua is healthy, he's going to be a really solid first-round pick, which, again, is why we're all taking him above consensus ADP there.
Yeah, and I'm not scared about the Tua injury risk either, as many other people are, because he's fully healthy right now. I know he's a bit of a unique situation, but he gets the ball out so fast. He's led the NFL in getting the ball out fast in the last 2 years in terms of time to release. And, he has to. Obviously, they're
for
aware
his own safety
and scheming around, the injury risk. Achane's, I think, the main benefactor of that. But who do you have at pick 8?
Pick 8 for me. I'm with Avery on Nico Collins. I used to have Nico Collins at 7, but Devon Achane, especially with Jonnu Smith leaving, did jump him. Nico Collins is that X receiver for a team that I don't think is going to be that great on. They're just all right. Their offensive line's not great. They're going to have to pass a ton. Cedar Stroud's going to be happening by time. And Nico Collins, when he was healthy last season, a lot of people scared about his injury risk as well. But he's amazing. He's a player that everyone's like, oh, this guy's going to win leagues. He's going to be the wide receiver 1. That's kind of some of the things we were talking about with Nico Collins last season. And player gets injured, everyone forgets. And that's one of the roles. It's like that's what we do every day, looking at the numbers, getting to the advanced stats on the WalterPicks app with the efficiency rankings, with the snap share rankings. And you look at what Nico Collins got accomplished when he was out there. Is the type of player that can absolutely win you leagues. When I've got Nico Collins, let's say he's lined up against Jamar Chase. My opponent has Jamar Chase. I'm like, I could actually win this one. And he's one of the few players that you can actually say that going into the week. Yeah,
100%. We do have Nico Collins at wide receiver 4 in the WalterPicks app. So WalterPicks app rankings are with you guys. I have Malik Nabers ahead of Nico Collins in my first round here. I think the talent profile for Nabers is a little bit better than what we could get with Nico Collins. Then on top of that, I do think QB upgrade coming for Malik Nabers. I mean, we just saw Malik Nabers with Daniel Jones and Drew Lock last season. And I think Dart, Russell Wilson, and if we get Winston in there, man, Malik Nabers is going to go absolutely nuclear. He led the NFL in target share as a rookie, which I don't think many people realize just how impressive and insane
35%
it is to lead the NFL in target share. And they didn't really add any receivers on this team. So he's going to lead the NFL in target share again, I think. I love banking on that in PPR drafts. Another guy, because of the targets, doesn't really need to score touchdowns to provide value at this pick. And if he does hit a big touchdown season, suddenly Nabers is the wide receiver 1 overall. I think he's in a similar tier, though, to Nico. And we do, again, have Nico ahead in the WalterPicks app rankings, which I think is very reasonable. But that's who I have at pick 9. Who do you guys have at pick 9? Do you have Nabers or McCaffrey or Achane there?
So I had McCaffrey at 9 after Achane.
I actually have Ashton Jeanty at 9.
Wow.
Yeah.
Over McCaffrey.
Wow. Yeah, I do have McCaffrey in my first round, but I have Ashton Jeanty. One of the things I like about Ashton Jeanty is I think you look at like Kyron Williams. You see that 73% rush share. And I think Ashton Jeanty is going to see that in this Pete Carroll offense.
Yeah.
I love the upgrades they made. They made an upgraded quarterback. They made an upgraded running back. They drafted some O-linemen in the later rounds as well. Not the late rounds, even like some of the middle rounds. They got some O-linemen. I like all the improvements they make. And I think he's going to see that rush share just be explosive. I think he's better than Kyron Williams, who was RB11 last year, 17 points per game. So if he's going to get a similar rush share, I think he's be involved in the pass game. I think this whole offense is just going to run through Jeanty. And in the red zone, I know we may talk a little bit about Brock Bowers, but he's not a touchdown guy. You look at Jacoby Myers, he can score touchdowns, but the easiest touchdown option on this team is going to be Ashton Jeanty. I think they're going to be a lot better than last year. So looking at all the volume, which is number one, the pass volume, which I think will be there, his talent level, which I think is, it's just off the charts. And I mean, a lot of people are like, he didn't play in the best conference, which is true, but he did have great games against great teams last year as well, when all that they had to do was stop him. And they just could not do it. And that's the guy I want for my fantasy team, a guy that everyone was trying to stop, everyone was talking about. It's the entire focus, probably for multiple weeks before they ever played Boise State, and Jeanty still dominated. And I think there's enough options on the Raiders that you can't do that. They have Bowers, they have Myers, who I think is massively underrated. And I that's why I need to have Jeanty for my team. And he's a player I do think could compete with the Saquon Barkleys, the Bijan Robinsons, because he just has that kind of the talent and expertise in the explosive run plays, in the goal line plays that some of the other backs don't have.
Yeah, I've gone full circle. I feel like over the last few months with Jeanty, really since the NFL draft with Ashton Jeanty. And you guys know I have pretty bad rookie fever that I've been battling for months now, really since and leading up to the NFL draft, where I think immediately after the NFL draft, I felt you could make a good case for Jeanty in the top 5 of fantasy drafts. We had him compared to LaDainian Tomlinson as a prospect. I don't think that's that crazy to do. I do think he's that level of prospect. So we got an elite prospect, like Seth was saying. My full circle moment here, though, is I actually don't have him in round 1 at all here. And I do have Bowers in round 1 over him, which I wouldn't do in an actual draft. In an actual draft, I would take Jeanty over Bowers. But I think Bowers should go ahead of Jeanty. So this is how I think round 1 should go. This is like the part of my order where I wouldn't do exactly this in my own draft. Those first 9, I think I would do exactly that. But yeah, Ashton Jeanty, the offensive environment, I'm a little less convinced is like a lock to be good. The Raiders compared to the 49ers, compared to the Lions, compared to the Falcons, I just think there's a big chance that this offensive environment is nowhere near the touchdown potential of these other offenses. I think the receiving role is a bit more of a question mark too, compared to Achane, McCaffrey, Gibbs, and Bijan. All 4 of those guys, I think, will have a higher target share than Jeanty as well. So yeah, I'm a little just skittish a bit on the offensive environment, and you just have such safe bets with some of these other guys. And then Bowers, who I have at pick 10, coming off the best rookie tight end season of all time. I think in maybe not last year, but the 3 fantasy seasons before that, he probably would have been the top 5 pick in fantasy, where people are just a little bit more out on tight ends now. But he's coming off the best rookie tight end season of all time. He's getting a QB upgrade with Geno Smith, and he didn't score a lot of touchdowns last year. And I do think he can score a lot of touchdowns. We didn't see it in year 1. He was under 4% touchdown rate. But if he turns into the red zone threat that I think he could be, I think he does have the talent for, he gets a George Kittle level target share or touchdown rate, excuse me.
Wow.
He's going to be a league winning
ever.
He's going to be he could have I think that's in his range of outcomes.
It's like 21.6 points per game. Rob Gronkowski.
Yep.
I also made a video about that. I think he could be.
Yeah, like it's within the range of outcomes for the player who just had the best rookie tight end season of all time. Usually we see year 2, year 3 better for tight ends. Obviously, most tight ends don't have the best season of all time in their rookie seasons. But yeah, I think it's possible we see the best tight end season of all time for Brock Bowers this year, in future years. And so yeah, that's worth a round 1 pick when you get that positional advantage. You're going to be going up against people with Hunter Henry in their starting tight end slot as the season goes on. Kyle Pitts, where you're putting up 30 bombs in your tight end slot with Brock Bowers. Such a safe floor with the target opportunity as well. And I like Geno Smith for this offense.
Agreed.
Too. So I maybe talking, both directions here, with feeling good about Geno, feeling bad about Jeanty in the offensive situation. So I don't know. I'm scared to be out on Ashton Jeanty, and I probably would take him over Bowers in an actual draft and hope Bowers falls to round 2. The latest draft I did, he did fall to the middle of round 2, which I think is a great pick there. But yeah, that's who I have at 10 after Nabers is Bowers. And then I have Nico at 11. Who do you guys have at 10 and 11?
So I actually do have Puka Nacua breaking in to this range here. I am a little bit worried about the Matthew Stafford back injury. That is pushing him down my draft boards a little bit, but I have him and Amon-Ra at my spots here right before the last pick of the 12th round. Somebody is slipping that you may ask why is he slipping, which I will get into later, but I think Puka Nacua, we've seen him play with really good receivers when Cooper Kupp was a Triple Crown guy. Like, I don't think Devontae Adams is going to be a reason why we can't draft Puka Nacua. If anything, he's going to help the offense move even more. And that's why I have him there. And Amon-Ra, a lot of people are worried about Amon-Ra, again, with the offensive coordinator change. Right. He is one of those glue guys. He's not going to be phased out. Will he have a little bit less upside? Touchdown potential might go down. This is a year that everybody is saying it's Jared Goff's time to prove if he really is that quarterback for the Lions. I'm not worried about it. I think Amon-Ra is extremely safe, and he also has the potential to give you those high weeks, even if it doesn't happen extremely often.
I have neither one of those guys in my first round. Not that they're bad players, but I prefer Christian McCaffrey at pick 10. So he didn't fall too far behind where you have him. Christian McCaffrey, he's healthy right now. If it stays that way, he can win you leagues. And hey, that's what I'm trying to do. I don't know about everybody else, but we talked about on the 49ers episode that if you drafted Christian McCaffrey every year since he's been in the league, you probably won 4 fantasy championships. You probably lost 4. They weren't great years, but that's a pretty good hit rate. Yeah. And for a player that just wins you leagues, I think in the first round, that's where those players go. And at pick 11, I mean, we talked so much about, and you'll see this if we look at my entire first round, I do not want to get stuck with bad running backs. I know I can get good wide receivers. I'm confident in them. I've done the research. I think there's some absolute steals throughout this draft. And I've got Derrick Henry at pick 11. He was RB4 last season, I believe, or maybe even RB3, 19 points per game. This Ravens offense is going to cook again this year. And Derrick Henry, you talk about age. He's not as fast as he used to be. He's still pretty fast. He's very difficult to tackle in the open field. In the red zone, I mean, he's impossible to stop. I mean, this is a Jerome Bettis jersey. You guys know I love those big bruising running backs. And Derrick Henry is one of those guys that I think is very underrated. And I would be happy to take him at pick 11. And then, we'll see if maybe some of the other guys are there in round 2. I didn't even go double running back. So for me, Derrick Henry, I don't want to miss out on running back. So I've got him in my first round.
Yes, I want to touch on Nacua and Henry. I don't have either of those guys in my round 1, but I think it's reasonable to take them in this range of drafts. And I definitely would consider them around this range of drafts as well. Puka Nacua, we just talked about on the Rams episode. He was wide receiver 6 in points per game last year and didn't score many touchdowns. Touchdowns come, he can be the number 1 overall wide receiver in fantasy football. So I think it's very reasonable to take him in round 1. But I am a little worried about the Stafford back stuff that I would rather take him in round 2 and why I don't have him in round 1 and how I think round 1 should go. And then Derrick Henry, in my opinion, I think I've been saying this the last 3 years now. I think it gets more clear every single year. I think he's the greatest rushing running back of all time. If you just ignore the receiving part of the game, the greatest pure runner of all time is Derrick Henry. He's playing in a backfield, the greatest rushing quarterback of all time. I mean, it's just such a good team. Such a joy to watch, man. Definitely, I feel blessed as an NFL fan to watch those two on the same team.
I don't, as a Steelers fan.
But in a PPR draft, though, every year in PPR leagues, I just can't talk myself into Derrick Henry in the first round. I think it's reasonable. We saw what happened last year with Derrick Henry, and I think he can, if he does the same thing, he's going to return value that you need at this price. But I think he lacks the same ceiling as some of these receiving backs who could match him in touchdown potential if their season hits right, and they get the receiving work on top of that. You get that with McCaffrey, you get that potentially with Jeanty, with Gibbs, with Bijan, and you're just not going to get that with Henry. That's not going to be the reason he hits and hits big. So it's not the type of archetype I like to target in round 1. But for me at pick 12, I got Brian Thomas Jr. I'm curious to hear who you guys have at pick 12 as well. I do have him ahead of Puka Nacua. The end of Brian Thomas Jr. season last year to me is going still a little bit underrated. Like, I think you could argue Brian Thomas Jr. as early as pick 9, even ahead of Malik Nabers. This season, he didn't have a game under 16 PPR points. Didn't have a single game under 16 PPR points in his final 6 games of the season. Almost all of those games were with Mac and Cheese, Mac Jones. It's honestly kind of wild to think that his best games last year came with Mac Jones, not with Trevor Lawrence. I feel like some people are scared of that. To me, that's a reason to buy even bigger on Brian Thomas Jr. I think his talent profile, like I won't be surprised at all if next year we're talking about the top of drafts. Is it Jamar Chase, Jefferson, or Brian Thomas Jr., or Malik Nabers? I think both these guys could be in that conversation next year of that level of talent. Is Brian Thomas Jr. the best wide receiver in the NFL? That's a conversation that really could be happening this season. Travis Hunter is wide receiver 2 on this team. He's going to be playing both ways. I think he's a very exciting talent. But after that, there's not much target competition on this team, an ambiguous running back backfield. I feel like Brian Thomas Jr. is one of the last guys that can really be the wide receiver 1 overall. You could make an argument for Puka Nacua for sure. But yeah, I think the ceiling justifies a first round pick for Brian Thomas Jr. And part of the reason I like the back part of drafts right now is it does feel like there's a lot of round 1 guys that are falling into the beginning of round 2 this season with Derrick Henry, Puka Nacua, Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Nabers sometimes, Achane,
could be good.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I have Brian Thomas Jr. over as well. But I think very reasonable first round pick also. Yes, I do like the back part of drafts for that reason, especially if I'm missing on McCaffrey in those first 6. Yeah. I think I prefer kind of being in the back this year. And Jeanty can fall there, as well.
He has been.
So yeah, that's why I have at pick 12. Avery, who do you got at pick 12?
Yeah, I have Malik Nabers, who finally fell this far for me. And there is a reason for that. I think you cannot ignore the target share that he had. 35% is absolutely insane. And there is an argument that it can go higher.
Yeah.
But I have him outside my top 6 wide receivers because statistically it is very difficult for a wide receiver to finish top 6 if their offense is bottom 5 in the NFL. And I do think the Giants are at very high risk of being a bottom 5 offense in the NFL. If Jameis Winston happens to play any games, I think he completely breaks that because the pass volume is just unheard of. But with Russell Wilson, even if Jackson Dart decides to step on the field at one point, I love Malik Nabers. I think he's an amazing wide receiver. But it's going to be very hard for him to break top 6 if the offense is bad, even if there is a lot of targets going his way.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, if you think about it, Brian Thomas Jr. has got a much better quarterback situation than Malik Nabers. I think you can make an argument for BTJ over Nabers. I think we both argue Nabers over BTJ on our rankings here, but they are in a similar tier. I think sneakily in a very similar tier. Who do you got to pick 12? Sam?
Yeah, I do also have Malik Nabers. I mean, I used to have Brian Thomas Jr. In my first round as well. Yeah. The thing that every time I talk about him, the Mac Jones item there where that was his best game of the season, I just worry a little bit about that. I think Mac Jones was like, hey, I can still throw the ball, so I'm going to just throw it to the most talented guy on the field and let that get me a job elsewhere. And it worked. He did get a job elsewhere. And I think that was smart for Mac Jones. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to try to do he does a lot more. He kind of maybe does too much because he hasn't been successful really as one of the greatest quarterback prospects ever. Right. Hasn't been super successful up to this point. And I do worry a little bit about that, a little bit about the Travis Hunter, a little bit about the running back situation. That's how many points this team going to score. But I love Brian Thomas Jr. But I went Malik Nabers as well. The target share is just crazy. And what I pictured when I was making this list is you look into the box scores and you start to see like 12s and 14s. Like when that last number is bigger than like when you're double digits, but you start to get in the teens. That's a player I have to have on my team. Yeah,
I definitely agree. And the Giants do have one of the most difficult schedules in the NFL this year. They're going to be behind in a lot of games. The defense isn't bad, but they're playing some legit teams like in most of their games this season.
Playoff teams.
Playoff caliber teams are over half of the Giants games. This year, so like they're going to have to throw the ball whether they want to or not, and it's going to be Nabers on the other end of that at least a third of the time. Basically,
that's just wild. That's a wild like a third of the time. It's going to Malik Nabers.
Just such a safe bet. I feel like in PPR formats especially. All right, I think that does it for how we think round 1 should go. Some good debate on the show today. Definitely a lot of differences once we got past those first 7 picks. But hopefully this episode helped you guys out in thinking through who you want to target in round 1 of drafts. But round 1 is not where leagues are won. You don't just win your league in round 1. You got to nail every single pick of the draft. And you don't even win leagues in just the draft either. It's also about crushing in season, which is why the WalterPicks app is here to help you all season on draft day, start sits, trades, all season long through championship day. You can check that out in the description below, and make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss more content like this. Have a good one, everybody.